المكنون، قصص نرويها عن الجوهرة التي أحيت السواحل الإماراتية. هي التراث، هي الثقافة، هي اللؤلؤة المكنونة.
The pearl can be explored in different ways, through its survivors, its photography. But how can it be interpreted through architecture? My name is Minna, and I'm basically the architecture expert. I mean, not really, I just Googled a bunch of information.
My name's Mariam. I don't know much about architecture, but I know a thing or two about the pearl. To add on to what you said earlier, the pearl essentially is one of the greatest gems here in the Gulf. What makes it unique is its functions. For example, we have the nacre, or mother of the pearl, which is what gives the pearl its iridescence.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the less popular parts of the pearl?
There's also the mantle, which captures floating organisms, essentially acting like a filtering system. And then the shell, which is its protective shield. Minna, do you think this could be translated in architecture?
Well, actually, there is a field called biomimicry where architects derive their designs from nature.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the Gherkin in the UK, it's this weird rocket-shaped building. It's actually inspired by the sea sponge.
Okay, I see that it's similar to a sea sponge visually, but how about its functionality?
Well, here's what makes it interesting. The AC and airflow implementation is directly inspired by its filtration system. And that's only one example of the many architectural buildings that are inspired by nature. And to find out more about how the pearl can be translated into architecture, we'll be asking George Katodritis, who is a professor at the American University of Sharjah.
Yes, my name is George Katodritis. I'm an architect and faculty member in the Department of Architecture at CAD, the US. I'm the head of the Department of Architecture, and it's really a great pleasure to talk with you guys about your project.
Thank you for joining us today, Professor. So, Mariam and I have been talking a bit about what biomimicry is in technical terms. But what is it to an architect like yourself?
So biomimicry can, in architecture and design in general, in certain quarters, one might relate it to the kind of the formal beauty of nature. But even more challenging is in the beauty of making natural architecture by which materiality can be achieved in a very effective way in architecture, and way taking buildings and architecture and design in a kind of primitive state, which I think is interesting.
So how would you dissect the pearl in architectural terms?
But I will kind of start from the inside going outside and kind of focusing on the interior, which is this kind of curvilinear, centralized, interlocking series of materials. Some of the materials are very fluid, it's kind of very transparent, it's kind of very rich. So I would almost like begin to compose an interior based out of that, with this beautiful slickness of the surface. And there's also a beautiful pattern. It's always a pattern, which is almost a mathematical pattern. It's beautiful. So you have one kind of strand, kind of reverberates to the other ones, which I think is really beautiful.
What kind of inspiration can you derive from the pearl when designing a space?
I think this experience and the kind of transition between the outside and the inside, and the kind of phantasmagoric condition of the interior, I will put a lot of emphasis on an interior. And then at some stage, this kind of circular and radiating form, or circular, and the kind of the abstraction of it becomes interesting. And then again, you almost like expand the universe from inside out as a fragmentation.
Oh, I see that you're very fascinated by the pearl's formation, Professor.
Because they all work in a kind of cohesive way, the act of survival of the biological species. I mean, the shell has to survive. It's the act of survival, which is, I think, a beautiful thing, because you have to come in balance with nature. Nothing exists in isolation. Everything exists in a kind of repetition and differentiation, as you say. And then within that, there's a kind of internal beauty, which is exactly what we're seeing here with this extended.
Would you like to add anything else?
I think the fact that this is a natural process that is taking place so many years. There's a concept, there's a process, and there's an outcome of it. And there's so much, I think, as designers we can learn from this. Not necessarily looking like inspired from the shell and the pear, but more about bringing the design process, which can be very technical and technological, but also within kind of natural modesty and efficiency and beauty, which I think we've lost.
I really like how he translates some of the pearl's functions into different materials and buildings. He's just so infatuated by it. So Minna, can you say it's an ideal source of inspiration for architects?
To be honest, although the pearl can derive beautiful design, that's not always the case with all architects. For example, Camilo Cerro, also a professor at the American University of Sharjah, has something else to say.
My name is Camilo Cerro. I'm a professor of architecture and interior design at the American University of Sharjah. I'm also a principal of Dharmatecture in Brooklyn, New York.
Professor, what is biomimicry to you?
Proper biomimicry studies more the molecular composition of things. So it's not only studying nature to produce an element that functions in terms of natural rules, but it's also producing something that, linked to sustainability, is designed to preserve nature. And that's a much more kind of advanced version of biomimicry.
So what is your thought on the pearl inspiring design?
It doesn't start the other way around. To grab a pearl and turn it into a building is a formal approach. So it's going to be very weak in terms of conceptual understanding. But if we have a function that happens to be conducive to using the pearl as a conceptual idea for it, then you're going to end up with a project that will last also historically longer than a formal project. But it's done with a material that reminds you or links you to the original object in that sense.
Then how would you abstract the concept?
Well, the abstraction is by trying not to make the evident. And the evident would be a spherical building that is kind of white and shimmery. Also, you have to be careful and not to romanticize the object. It's just an object. It's not a special object in any sense, because that specialness is a narrative. And we cannot design out of a story. And design doesn't care about beauty. The problem with beauty is that it's in the eye of the beholder. If you do something that functions well, it will function for everybody.
But there is no right or wrong answer. Everyone gets inspired in different ways. And that's what's so fascinating about nature. Who would have known that this precious gem can also be translated into different spaces? A theater in the eyes of one, and an object of function in the other. The pearl is as versatile as the music it orchestrated, the maps it marked, and the stories it orated in the Gulf. It is poetry, history, and it is architecture.
للمزيد من المعلومات وقائمة من شاركونا بالعمل، زوروا موقعنا الإلكتروني www.mcnoonexhibition.com أو زوروا صفحتنا على الإنستغرام مكنون Exhibition.